Hello, I'm Lisa Witter, and this is where we meet the people reshaping politics, leaders, artists, reformers, rule breakers, and today a former politician. We'll see if she'll be a future politician too, perhaps. And they're all people who are making it more hopeful, more human, and more ready for the future. And I'm really, really happy to be speaking to one of the advisors of the Better Politics Foundation, Annie Lööf. She is a Swedish political leader who grew up in Värnamo. Did I say it right, Annie?
Yeah, correct.
Good, yeah.
Värnamo.
And trained as a lawyer at Lund University. She entered national politics really young, in her early 20s, being elected to the Swedish parliament in 2006 as one of the youngest members at the time. So got the itch, and we're going to get to what gave her that itch to get involved in politics. At 28, so very young, she was chosen as leader of Sweden's Center Party, becoming the youngest party leader in modern Swedish politics. And I hope Annie will get into party politics, because it's a big focus in 2026 at the Better Politics Foundation. She led the Center Party through a significant ideological renewal, repositioning as modern, liberal, sustainable-focused party, while also navigating a period of really heightened polarization, which you're still living with in Sweden today, and very fragmented parliamentary power. Not easy times that Annie it was in that role. During early years of her leadership, she also served as Minister for Enterprise from 2011 and 2014. Maybe you can brag about the number of unicorns up there in Sweden, with responsibilities for business, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Throughout her leadership, she played a really important role in government negotiations, coalition building, often acting as a really important power broker for the traditional political blocs. So we're going to dive into the skills and mindsets needed to be able to do that. She became known for her firm defense of liberal democracy and her refusal to cooperate with far-right parties, even when doing so came at a significant political cost. After more than 10 years as party leader, she stepped down in 2023 and left parliament. And today she works as a strategic advisor, luckily to us too, board member, and a public speaker. And every time I've spoken to Annie, she talks about how important it is to inspire people to get in politics, no matter what way that is. So in this conversation, we're going to talk about her journey from early leaderships to this coalition politics to holding power. And when do you know it's time to go? I think that's something worth exploring. And what that reveals about the realities of elected office. What's it really like? The costs, the upsides, and the advice she would offer to the next generation, especially young women, considering a path into politics. So with that, welcome, Annie.
Wow, thank you. What a broad introduction. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, we're happy. So let's get into it. This is a question I like to start with people. What first drew you into politics? What was your why?
My why was to change, to play a role, to be young people's voice. Actually, I've always liked to be like a spokesperson. It started very young, being a class friend in the class when I was 8 or 9 years old, being the spokesperson in my soccer team, being 12 or 13 years old. I took seat in the young parliamentary sessions from my school, and so on, like a typical CV for being a politician. And when I was in the last grade in high school, I talked about that nothing happened in my small city, in my home region. And I, like young people used to do, like it sucks, actually. And then my dad said to me, but Annie, please, when you play soccer, you don't sit at the standards and yell at everyone else to do the job. You are there, you play the ball. And he said that to me when I was 18 years old. And he gave me some thoughts to think about. So I try to like find my way into party politics. And I started at a very local level. So I find 2 friends and started. You need to be 3 in Sweden to like start a small association or a small club in the local politics. So we started a small club for young people in Värnamo, my hometown, and that's the start. So it was half a year before the local elections, and 6 months after I was elected to the local government. So that was my start. So my dad, he like pushed me to raise my voice and to make some actions instead of just yelling.
Well, let's go back. We're grateful for your dad. Let's go back a little bit before we go forward. I definitely want to find out where those other two people went that you started
Yeah.
this association with. You know, one thing that we have in common, Annie, is that we're both athletes and both very shaped by being an athlete, learning to play as a team, learning to be on the field, learning to lose and win and have strategies and practice and discipline and habits. And I think is really something that is underutilized in most of our societies as
Mm.
a not just a women's empowerment tool, but it's like a leadership. It's like a political leadership tool. But besides sports, what were the other things that really shaped you? Did you go to church? Were you interested in music? Like, what were those? Because maybe you were just born, Annie, as someone who liked to stand up and take the mic. I kind of feel the same. I've always really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But were there influences?
Yeah, I think I back home, my parents, they have encouraged both me and my sisters to be vocal. My little sisters, they are now also leaders, but in business sector and in healthcare sector. So we are all three of us leaders, but in different sectors. And I think it's something to do with how we grew up. In a very young age, around the table, we used to debate. We used to argue for having candies or going on specific travels and so on. And I think that formed me a lot. But actually, football, soccer, it has made me as a that leader which I am today, because I was the goalkeeper in my soccer team, like an individual player in the team. So you need to have strength, but also endurance. And you need to be best when it really matters. Sometimes it's a very long time. You just stand there as a goalkeeper for 14 or 16 minutes, but then you meet a player and you need to be very focused on your task. And that's something that I brought with me. But also being a part of a team where everyone needs to succeed. That's also very important leadership skills that I brought with me. But except from the sports section, as you told me, I think my childhood created my values, because I'm born in a very small city, which are famous for entrepreneurship, small and medium-sized companies, a lot of churches. We are called the Sweden's Jerusalem because there are a lot of
Wow.
churches everywhere, and all our activities, except from sports, we are doing them in the different churches. So I was in a gospel choir in one of the
Wow.
churches, and I did like cafes and restaurants in another one, and yeah, we were formed in different social communities, strong friendships, and together then with leadership skills in the soccer team, I created my path and my leadership.
Well, I love that. I share a lot of that. I grew up going to church with my grandmother and being an athlete as well. And I meet a lot of people in politics who, even if they're not religious later in life, it's those early kind of values, service, look out for others is
Mm.
really, really formative if you want to go into public service, right? Because it's about something bigger than yourself. You know, Annie,
Yeah,
I
it
have,
is.
sorry, yeah. Go ahead.
It is because I've always been very present in my leadership, even during my party leadership, because I think that trust is the very basic platform for society, of course, but also for the political leadership, and to create and trust between people and between politicians and voters, you need to be there. You need to
Mm,
listen. You need to listen before you act, and having those conversations in the local communities is very, very important. Even if you are like a federal minister, cabinet minister, with a very busy calendar, you need to be on the ground. And my party, the Center Party, we are very from the bottom and up, so decentralized party. And that's what's the reason why I went into that specific parties, except for the liberal values, of course. But being like a party that also creates local activities. The members in my former party, they are also those who make coffee in churches, who help refugees coming to Värnamo, and so on. So we are a very social oriented party rooted
massive
in the very local society.
Yeah, and service oriented. I want to go back to being a goalie for a second, and then I want to go forward to political parties. But I have a son, Otto. He's a goalie. He's out with a wrist injury right now, which is tough.
Mm.
Broken wrist from got shot at
Have
with a
some
ball.
broken fingers, like this
There
one.
you go. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of his, the chef of the club has a broken pinky from sort of the same thing. What I find really interesting about it, being a goalie, it's kind of what we need to do in democracy and politics all the time. On one hand, you're the defense stop, right? Like buck stops at Annie or Otto or whoever the goalie is. But the other thing I see him and other successful goalies do is they're always building the team up, right? Like they're the man or woman in the back, kind of directing traffic or being often like the cheerleader and not those
Yeah.
terms, right? Because it's this like perspective. It's like being with it, but really facilitating other people to do the work. And I find politics very facilitative. Like it's not about you making every goal or passing every ball. It's really about, facilitating that other pieces. So I think sports is something, Annie, I'd love to talk more about with you as a former athlete. How do we bring more political leadership into sports and out of sports? Because I think it's literally a great training ground to think about how to be good at politics. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree definitely, because I was a party leader and MP at such a young age. I try to find my leadership values from the soccer years, and then I try to find what did I do. Yeah, I coached my friends on the field. I saw them, and I told them, "Oh, you need to run there. Anna is there. Please help her there." And to make other being their best selves, like being stars on the field. If you should succeed as a team, everyone needs to be as its best, and that's an important thing. But because when I became a party leader, we were 31 MPs in my group that wanted to be stars, of course,
Yeah.
in their field.
Yeah.
They are experts in householding, experts on economic affairs, experts on foreign policies. And I was the party leader, being like a leader of everything, but they were the experts. And then I tried to, like, how would I manage the best, being like their coach or their leader? Because my party's prosperity or success is depending on their success.
Yeah.
And so they have the right tools and they can build a trust with their voters. And that, I think that's so important, to be more a coaching leader than a boss. And being a goalkeeper in the soccer team, you're one in the team, not like a
Yeah.
boss standing over the others. You're a coaching team member.
So I want to go back to these two people that formed this association. I'm just curious,
Yeah.
what are they doing now? Did they stay in politics?
Actually, not. They stayed in politics for some years, but they are now living in Värnamo, in my hometown, and they are doing other things. They are not engaged in politics, but they were my best political friends for very first crucial years, because I stepped down, and then they were also elected in the local government in different committees. During 2002, and, they were there for some years, but then I became one on the parliamentary list in during 2006. But, it was very formative ages. We were 18 and 19 years old. We moved to different places where we studied. We got new friends, but I still have contact with them when I come home to my parents.
Well, that's great. I mean, I just for people listening, I get asked a lot by people who are interested in running for office, like, is it better to do local office or national office? And isn't the end game to be a prime minister? I was like, no, like there's no end game, because public service and politics is like, it's just like breathing. It just happens all the time. It can be better or
Exactly.
worse, and you need to make it. But it's finding your place. I know a lot of people who really love much more local politics, is much closer to where the people at. Other people want to deal with foreign policy. So there's no ladder. It's really about where is your service at that particular time. So I want to, one of the things we had a debate earlier this year at Better Politics Day. Are parties the problem in democracy, or are they the solution in terms of looking forward ahead? And a lot of people say, I don't want to join a political party, and I think we're about somewhere between 2 and 4% of political party globally around the world. You joined one. A lot of the argument I hear from people is, well, they don't represent exactly everything that I think about. What advice? Would you join a political party again? Do you think it's important? Should we reimagine political parties?
Oh, I'm still a member in my party, even if I don't have I don't have like a mission in my party anymore. But I'm still a proud member. But when I suppose when I chose my party 25 years ago, back then the internet wasn't that built, so I got like papers home, and I read their party programs, and I did pluses and minuses for each and every one of the parties. And I chose the one with most pluses and less minuses. And of course, you can't agree on everything in a party program. I didn't do that even after 12 years as a party leader, because a party is also about democracy.
Mm.
You lose some, you win some, it's compromises. And democracy is built on different voices and different parties. We are like a party democracy. So I think it's very crucial to foster young people to be a part of the party democracy system, because you can absolutely be a part of different associations. I have been that too. Before I entered party politics, I was a member in associations against racism and associations for environment and so on. And that's one part, of course. But if you want to change legislation, if you want to change how the society is built, it is done in local governments or regional or national governments. So you need to be a part of that. And you can change parties when you are a member of the party. So when I entered my party, it was a lot of content there that I didn't agree on. But I changed it together with others, of course. As you said in my introductions, we modernized my party, and it took a long while.
Give me an
But
example of that. What is specifically, what does that mean?
yeah, but when I entered the Center Party, we had an own ideological label called humanism, like ecology and economy in balance together with human rights. Was like a own designed ideology, and I didn't understand that. I didn't understand why we just called ourselves like social liberals, green social liberals, but it was quite hard to do that. Development in the party, because yeah, it's a lot of old history, and you need to do it step by step to create a sharper position in your values and label and a strong label, a strong trademark. You also need to form an agenda for this decades or the coming decades, and the answers who suits the best during the 80s is not the best for now. So we developed both values and policies during my time. That was important for me to be more like confident as a party leader, but also to have more voters, to be more on the ground, to listen to people, to form an agenda that suits the modern Sweden.
So you clearly were a political entrepreneur or a reformer, right? You went into the party and it sounded like substantively it needed an upgrade, and it also needed an image upgrade to match that substance, right? What would you say now that parties need to do? I mean, clearly society has changed. I hear a lot from people that change takes too long or democracy is so slow. So there's like part of our expectations about how things happen, but also people just aren't interested in parties, it seems. Like what's your biggest like argument about why they should go in?
If you want to influence, if you want to change, you need to be a part of the parliamentarian system, because that's where you negotiate legislation, the state budget or the local budget. That's why it's so important, because otherwise, if you are not there, other ones will form the agenda. So that's why it's so important for young people to enter these rooms. That was my argument back in 2006 when I became the youngest one in the national parliament. I was like the young voice for young people, and back then I was personal elected. We have a different system in Sweden. We have 349 seats in the national parliament, and only 6 of them were personal elected. The others were elected from like
A list,
from the parties, a list. And I was number 2 on my list, and I got so many like votes and crosses in front of my name. So I was personal elected as one of 6 and became the youngest one. And when it was a huge media covering back then, because we have always said that the ones who are losing on personal elected campaigns is women, people, and people living on the rural side. And I was from the rural side, woman and a young person.
Wow.
And what we did back then was I had a team with both old and young people, and we had a clear target and clear focus and priorities. And, my target group was young people on universities, in like 18 and 19-year-olds in schools, and we were talking about jobs, future, and living standards for young people. So that was my way in, and I think that's important. If you are eager to create more equality or a better planet, you can absolutely be a part of an association. But if you are also part of a party system, you can influence and make better legislations as well.
Good. I've been part of both, and I will say, particularly for people who haven't spent time in political parties or in direct politics, there's a lot of power, and in a good way. It can be used poorly, but in a good way to actually make change in the things that you
Yeah.
want. I think there's a lot of talk about making change, and then my friends, a lot of them are like, oh, I want this and this to work, and I work at an NGO, always really good. I'm like, but do you know the politician? Have you talked to them? Do you work with them? So there's this distancing that we have now. I want to go a little bit into the skills that you think were really important for you to be an effective politician. I mean, I could definitely hear that you knew how to build a team. We talked about this from sports. You had a target, you could strategic plan, you could implement that plan. But what do you think are the one or two most important skills to be an effective politician?
Uh, it's not that tough actually, because you need to be you. I would say it's so important not to lose yourself in the mission, to be passionate, personal, authentic, to use your own words, not others, to be yourself, dare to be you is like a very uh, is a very strong recipe to become a successful politician, but also endurance and to have the ability to roll up the sleeves and do the work, because it's not it's not like having meetings and drinking coffee. It's also about talking to people, travel, being and listen to people. And it takes time. It takes evenings, it takes weekends, and be curious. So curious, dare to be you, be present. It's very
Mm.
important, I would say. I never saw my politician work as a job. I saw it like a mission or a lifestyle. And I loved being a politician, even if it was a lot of dark sides as well. But the bright sides were, yeah, these are the ones I'm bringing with me in the future. It was tremendous years actually to have the trust to change for people and to have the ability and possibility to see and to meet people in very vulnerable situations or successful situations where I couldn't have met them in other ways. So that was remarkable. Uh, but I would also say that being there to be yourself, because one of the oddest moments ever happens to me still every month. People coming to me in the grocery stores and said, "Oh, are you shopping groceries by yourself, or being at H&M and shopping? Are you shopping your own clothes?" Or they think that I'm like not a normal person. and, and and when my kids are like in on Christmas celebration in schools, and I'm there, of course, as a parent, I
Yeah.
love to be there. And they're, "Oh, do you have time with that?" Of course. I'm like a human being. I'm a normal person living a family life, having a tremendous interesting job or mission or lifestyle. But of course, I still have time for being just me. And I think that is so important when you watch politicians. Uh, the most of them are just ordinary people with exceptionary missions, of course, but
Yeah.
ordinary people trying to do their best to create a better society, even if they are leftish or rightish, they are doing their best to create a better space in their point of view.
Yeah, I was just listening to a great podcast with Yuval Harari talking about kind of, the state of the world and where we're going, particularly where AI. And he ended the podcast talking about um, what do we do in this low trust period? And he was saying you can start with yourself with when you meet people, assume the best of them. I mean, don't be dumb. There are bad people in the world, but I think because we're so bombarded with all the bad things, we think everyone is bad. And what would happen if we sort of assumed the best of people? And he ended it on assuming the best of the politicians, and that he said the vast majority, the same with me, of politicians they've met, while being imperfect because they're people, they're in it for a really good reason, right? They care. You may disagree with their point of view, but it's very, very, very mission driven. I want to ask you a personal question and then a piece of advice. what's the weirdest thing about you? I mean, you're saying you're a real person. It's not weird that you go shopping for yourself, you show up at your kids' home, but like, what's like a weird Annie thing that people may not know? I mean, maybe in Sweden, people know everything because you've been in the public eye, Annie, for a really long time, right? And that probably
Yeah.
has taken a toll. But who's Annie? What's goofy about you?
What's goofy about me? I like a two-person individual because I'm very sharp and focused at work. But home, in my private sector, I'm the one who don't find my keys. I lost my AirPods this morning somewhere in the snow, in the woods. I I lose my wallet while I'm walking around, and I don't have a official phone number, so there are still kind people who are texting the center party, my former party, and oh, we have found Annie's driving license here. Can you please, can you please connect with her? So I'm a bit I think I put all my efforts to being sharp and focused in my work. So I'm a bit relaxed and sometimes too relaxed in
Mm.
private.
Well, the intensity of these jobs, I think, are things that people don't really understand. We run a politician for a day or politician for a week simulation, and they get up at 6 a.m. They do, if they're lucky enough, they get a workout, that maybe have some breakfast. They start doing reading, and then
Yeah.
maybe show up for their kids for dinner. They really try to. And then they're reading at night. And then they do it again every single day,
Yes.
sometimes in parliament, sometimes at a town hall meeting. The pace is inhuman, actually. And
Yes.
we did
That was my
this
life for over a
really
decade,
for years
like
and years. And you look so young. Wow, Annie, like, how did you not get wrinkles? Whatever cream
when
is up there in Sweden,
when
I want it.
yeah, when I ended the speaker in the Swedish parliament, he held a speech to me, and he said that I started as the youngest one, but I ended up as one of the veterans, and then he said only at 40 years old. so so it was yeah.
Can we
I've
talk
done a
about that,
lot.
Annie?
Mm,
Can we
mm.
talk about that? So you started young, really young, and you ended a veteran at 40. But still, like, it's a long time with a lot of stress and pressure. How did you know it was time to go? Because one of the things that we work on at the foundation is thinking about political leadership as an impact path. And we'll put a visual of this in the show notes. It's sort of you start, you go through, and in our version, it'd be great if people actually knew how to be a politician and how to be a policymaker before they came one. It's like asking someone to go into operation not knowing how
Yeah.
it works. Like, it just makes no sense. As you know, I know you've been involved in Höjrosten up there, and this is what we do. But we also say that not enough people think about asking themselves when it is my time to leave, because there
Mhm.
will be a time to leave. When did you know it was your time to leave?
I'm so glad that I had a possibility to choose my own destiny, actually, because most of the politicians are ended in quite a brutal way. But I decided before the last elections that this was my last election. In the coming 2 3 years, I want to step down because I think political leadership is about being in politics during a period in your life, but not forever. And back then, I had been a party leader for 11 years, and I still am the longest sitting woman in Sweden, being a party leader. And during that time and that global and national context, that decade, it was very tough.
Oh,
Uh,
man. I mean, you had
and
the financial crisis in
Yeah,
2008.
so
You had
financial
multiple
crisis,
wars.
pandemic,
Yeah.
Russians aggressions
Yeah.
wars against Ukraine, but also polarization, hatred. I lived for over 10 years with death threats and security arrangement around myself. And so I decided before the last election that this was my last one. But during the election campaign, it was a person who was planned to murder me during that summer on a political event. And When I got to know that, and I also got to know that he had mapped me for 8 years in his encrypted computer, and I was number one on his like list on traders. Uh, I decided that I want to see my kids grow up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so that's why I left. I hold a press conference just some days after the election day, and then I quit it half a year after the election days in February 2023. So it was both that I've been sitting such a long time or working such a long time, but also because of threats and hatred. So it was a very special time, and I was very affected. Being a woman, being a liberal politician, I was the main target for the far right extremists in Sweden for such a long time. So, but I stood there because I took the debates. I was there. I stand firm because I think political leadership is about courage. It's about stand firm even if the price is high. But during that summer, I realized that, okay, it is worth it, but now I've done my part of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Now it's
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. Annie, thank you for standing and thank you for sharing the story. I wish it was unique, but time and time again, all around the world, we continue to hear this. And it is driving good people out of politics. You said your time was up anyway, but it is not ever acceptable for anyone to receive death threats in these roles. And until we make that a non-acceptable part of our self-governance, we are destined, right, for a really, really bad ending because it's going to drive people out and push the people in often that we don't want to be in, who don't care as much about civil liberties and the things that are important. So I just really want to thank you. And I'm going to end on two questions, and it doesn't have to be related to that very hard fact of your life. And thank God you're safe and healthy. And I wish all the listeners could see the smile on Annie's face when she talks about her love for seeing politics as a pathway to making people's lives better. Like it just emits out of her. There should be like a meme for your smile or something. Maybe we can make one.
Yeah,
My
but
first. So go ahead, Annie. Yeah.
no, but I said I've really seen the dark like sides perspectives of politics. But even though I've met so many threats, both against my house as I watch now, my family and myself, I really actually I answer honestly that it was worth it. It's so odd to say that, but it was worth it because when I meet nowadays 13 or 15-year-old girls and boys stopping me in the streets and say, "Oh, can I take a photo of you?" or "You are my role model," and why they were like 10 years old when I was a politician, that makes me so proud because social media is has has many negative sides, but the the positive side is that it has democratized what you say like the,
Advertised.
democratized the conversations.
Yeah.
Uh, we are the politicians are among others, and they can get to know politicians in their everyday through social media, and that's a very positive part to foster young kids to be interested in politics.
Will your kids go into politics?
Uh, I don't know. I have a 10-year-old and one 6-year-old, but the 10-year-old actually, she said some months ago, "Mom, why can't you be a party leader again?" And I said, "Oh no, you don't want that." But
Yeah.
I think what she actually mean was being someone in a kid's perspective. Today I have a very broad title. I do a
Yeah.
lot of things, and her friends' parents, they are like policemen or
Yeah.
constructors or uh, truck drivers. And yeah, my mom, she's like she keynote speaker, board member, like
She
different
wants
kind
an
of things.
identity, a title, Annie.
I would say like social entrepreneur, but she didn't understand that. So she said, "Can't you just be party leader again?" It was easy to explain that. So
Well,
in a
party
kid's view,
leader.
but I do hope they will be. They don't need to be like active in a party, but I hope they will want to be active as a citizens and to stand firm, to raise their voice, to yeah, to make impact in their way, and to
I have a
dare to
hard
do
time.
that.
I have a hard time thinking that won't happen if you're the mother. It oozes from you. So the last two questions here on the Better Politics
Mm?
podcast is, if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing in politics, ideally quickly, what would it be? And the second is, what gives you hope?
Mm. Oh, actually, I want more cooperation, less polarization, more cooperation among parties, because it's not that much that differs between actually real Republicans and Democrats, for instance, or social democrats and more moderate parties. So you more cooperation, more building bridges between parties and people. The last 15 years we have been so much focusing on what differs, not what combine us. And what gives me hope, I would say, um, people that act. You know, what makes me feel hopeful now is people in Iran, women and men that are acting with their lives as a price for freedom. I when I talk on Höj rösten, this um, um, education or political school in Sweden, when I meet young people from the whole political spectra that take 5 or 6 weekends during a year to learn more about the political systems and how to take office and so on. That gives me hope. And yeah, all people that are making something, not just talking. So democracy is about action.
Well, we met through Daniel Sachs, who is a friend of both of ours and the chair of our board, and the head of the Daniel Sachs Foundation, who has really dedicated himself to democracy and the arts. He's a big supporter of the arts. I don't think those things are separate, actually, from one
No.
another. And being free to express yourself. But the program, Højrosten, that Annie was talking about, was our first in the Better Politics Foundation family, what we call political leadership incubator. And since then, Annie, that was 10 years ago that we found it. I was lucky to be on the founding board too. So I've spent a lot of time in Sweden and I love the darkness. Everyone says you can't go. I love it. And I love Swedish people. That now we have a network of 105 of them around the world. Not all of them we've helped, but we have built this community, and we just had our community, about 60 of them from about, I don't know, 35, 40 countries, in this moment of real questioning about how do we move forward with governance. People are supporting one another. So thank you for being part of that. It's more than a ripple of what's going on, and we see hope every single day. I can't operate otherwise, right? There's just no other choice.
No. Hope is so crucial. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Annie, any final words or words of advice for our listeners?
I think we have talked about so much, but I want you that listen now to bring with you that like trust is the best medicine for democracy. And democracy is about like courage, commitment, and hope. So even if it's very dark outside, and even if it's a lot of turmoil, conflicts, you need to have focus on a more prosperous future and hope. And we are the ones who are going to fix this to build a better democracy and a better world.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of hard and grindy work. I've been on the front face of politics for a lot of my life, but boy, have I had a lot of fun. I've met a lot of people. I've made a lot of change. I've, in the old days, stuffed a lot of envelopes, knocked on people's doors. And politics can be fun and joyful. And I really encourage people listening, if you're not involved, go join a party. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to stay forever, but it's time to get involved. It is not time to sit back. Annie, I just wrote a piece that asking people to spend 1% of their phone time every day on democracy or politics in particular. And it's very little, 10, 15 minutes a day could add up to a lot. Why don't we put down our phones for just 1% of your phone time? I think that's the call to hear. I think you would probably agree with that. So Annie, I'm going to look you up in Stockholm when I'm next there. I want to talk about how getting more girls involved in politics through sports. I think that's something we could work on together. And I just thank you for being human, for your service, for your optimism, and for never, ever, ever giving up. Thank you, Annie Lööf.
Oh, thank you. Looking forward to meet you in Stockholm, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.